X-Pac 12360. Featuring weekly news, insider commentary, and interviews with superstars, past and present from the world of pro wrestling.
A new day is dawning for DX.
And now, your hosts, Sean X-Pac Waltman.
Welcome to X-Pac 12360, everyone.
Yeah.
How's it going?
Fantastic.
Great. Hey, a little bit later on in the show, finally being joined by Mick Foley to talk about his 20 Years of Hell tour coming up.
Yeah.
And he's got a WrestleMania viewing party in Chicago at Duffy's, where I did the Royal Rumble viewing party.
Nice. Oh, awesome.
Yeah, and some other things that Mick talked about recently that we'll probably get into with him too, and also, hey, Jimbo in the booth.
Hello.
Sean, on the couch though.
Yeah.
Denise Salcedo.
Hey everyone.
Bill Handstock. Uprocks.com. Yep. Sundown Motel. Yada yada. TK Trinidad, the beautiful TK Trinidad, okay. And join us singing. Easy for me to say. Joining us in studio, star of Lucha Underground, Marty The Moth. What's up, man?
Yeah.
Thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me on.
Sweet. And you were in Tough Enough.
Yep.
Yeah. We talked. Yeah, we talked about you with Steve when he was in studio about that. 'Cause Jimbo brought you up to him about that.
Yeah.
Hopefully all good things are said.
Yeah, I think so. Right? I think
Fantastic.
yeah. Yeah. So, anyways.
So you were on the season where Matt Cross got the belt taken away from him?
Yep, Matt Cross and
Lean into your mic
Matt
a little.
Cross
There we go.
was there. Evil Lease as
Like
well.
I still we were just talking about it a couple weeks ago. Like that's like probably possibly the saddest thing that's ever happened on WWE television is Matt trying to not let the belt be taken from him.
Just his face.
Yeah,
like
it's
you could
the
see his heart
saddest
being
thing.
broken,
Yeah.
and it's horrifying.
But it worked out okay for him.
It worked out okay.
But the thing is I can totally imagine like what the feeling must be like at the time when it seems like this is my big break or whatever, and you don't know if you're going to get another one. You don't know if the ship's ever going to come back in because it might not.
Especially at the time, a guy of Matt's size.
He was one of the smaller guys, but he had a big buzz going about him going in. I heard about him before going back in. I'm like, all right, he's the favorite to win, so that's my guy I gotta beat. And then he left, third or fourth week, and then it was like, all right, this competition's mine.
So Marty, how did you end up on Tough Enough?
Actually, I was trying to get my name out, and anytime the WWE would come around Utah, I'm from Salt Lake City, Utah.
I know we were talking about that earlier.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's like 6 inches of snow right now. It's hell.
That's beautiful, but it's just, probably when you started, wasn't much of a wrestling scene around there, huh?
Still isn't, honestly. There's the place that brought me up, UCW Zero, and then there's a few other places of like the flunkies who couldn't hack our training. So that's the Utah scene. So that's why I want to move out here to LA as soon as possible. But I got on Tough Enough because anytime that WWE was come around, I would get myself as extra work. So they come to California, Houston. They skip Utah all the time. I don't know what it is. Like everyone skips Utah. My friends from Killswitch Engage, they skip Utah every single time too.
Yeah.
Like, what is it with everybody hating Utah?
It's not a hate. It's more of it's just an interesting place.
Well, here's the thing about Utah and Salt Lake City. Like, okay, if you're gonna run there, there's like not another like market to run where you could drive from Salt Lake City to such and such a town.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So it makes it more expensive to go run there.
Exactly. Now that's true.
Because you can't do 2 or 3 shows in a loop there. You know what I mean? Driving.
Absolutely. No, I have to go from. I do my show on like Saturday at Utah. Go down, drive down to Colorado, which is the next closest place. That's an 8-hour drive or an hour flight. But that's the next closest place, and that's Vegas is 6 hours.
Yeah.
They have some good shows out there in Vegas. But I got Tough Enough just by doing extra work as many times as possible. Somebody wrote me on Facebook actually and said, "Hey, I'm working with WWE Tough Enough. Are you interested?" I'm like, "You write me on Facebook and you work for Tough Enough? You're full of crap." There's no way you're writing me. And no, he said, yeah, you're on WWE's radar. And then a couple days went by and I didn't write back. I just thought it was a hoax. I'm like, screw it, just in case it's not. So I wrote back and got on Tough Enough.
So who was like in charge of that who were you dealing with?
I'm trying to remember.
Anyone I would know?
Name. No one, I believe, that you know. The Palombos were in there. Do you know the Palombos at all?
Like Chuck.
I know Chuck was there. But there's two sisters that work for the Fed that have been around the Fed for a while. It's Jess Palumbo and
Christina? No?
Not there. I was working with
Anyways.
somebody, yeah. It was
Yeah, now we're
somebody.
getting up into the weeds.
Well, was Tough Enough your first WWE tryout, or did you actually have a tryout
I had
before
a
that?
tryout back when they had the FCW thing going on in not Orlando, was it Tampa?
Was that when you wrestled Colt Cabana
That's where I wrestled Colt Cabana.
as Dan Severn?
Yes, with that awesome mustache. Thank you, Colt Cabana. You're awesome for that lovely mustache. No, and we got to have that rematch eventually. But yeah, that's when I had that rematch or that match with Colt Cabana with the mustache.
Are
Sometimes.
you going to be in New Orleans for Mania weekend?
I am.
Because Matt Riddle's putting on a blood sport event where it's KO or submission only, and that's where the you versus Colt as Stan rematch can take place.
Book it. Make that happen. Let's make that happen.
How do you feel you're having a tryout? This could be your one opportunity to get your dream job, and this guy doesn't really care, and he's dressing up as Dan Severn instead of taking it seriously.
Well, going in, you're the guy that's not signed, and this guy is. So what are you gonna do? Like, hey man, take it serious? But knowing Colt Cabana, he's a goof off anyway. So he could be absolutely 100% serious and taking this serious. Just he happens to have a mustache and trying to be somebody else.
That is Colt Cabana. That's how he is.
Exactly.
Yeah. Did you not have a good tryout match because of that? Or did it?
No,
Did it dampen the?
No, I don't think it dampened it at all. I had fun. I just didn't put together a match that highlighted me in my head that I thought of. I actually had a blast doing it. I'd like to have a regular match where he's not Dan Severn. But no, that's what I've known of him. He's just the goof off. That's me too. I'd be goofing off too.
You're on that other extreme, like goofy, but yours is like crazy to where you're like, I don't know if is this guy really nuts? Like we were talking earlier this week about how you get into character for your promos, and you legit smack yourself.
Yeah, but even during the acting scenes too. Like, there's guy Skip Chison who does the Lucha Underground tapings. Who does the acting part of it. He always just watches and laughs at me because like I'm getting ready and I start slapping myself. I'm like, okay, so I'm not gonna do any more of this. But I start beating the crap out of myself and like getting into it, and it works.
That was a pretty.
See, I didn't mind when other people do that to me. I just wouldn't do it to myself. You know?
Like you tell someone to slap you to get like amped up, or
Well, I mean, in the like, not so much like before we do a promo. Maybe I probably should have done that. I would have done a freaking promo.
you never know.
Should have done that, Marty.
And for some reason, it helps. Like just pouring water with that shock
Absolutely.
value, like jump you into
Yeah.
like we're ready to go kind of thing.
Who are your big influences as far as like character work and stuff?
Actually, Shawn Michaels. Like just watching him, he legit looks like he's just having fun in there. Especially towards the end of his career, he was having fun. You could see in his face. So that's kind of how I mimicked kind of my career off of is Shawn Michaels. So that's guy that influenced everything. I got into wrestling because of Goldberg. And then I saw Shawn Michaels wrestle versus Goldberg wrestle.
Huh.
So when you were in Tough Enough, was it what you expected it to be, or was it totally different? And what was it like working with Stone Cold?
Well, he's Stone Cold Steve Austin, so that was actually my first time meeting him. So that was a little bit intimidating, but at the same time, I was in a competition, so I had to like set the fanboy over here in this compartment, and then just, okay, this is my coach. He's big, tall, intimidating, buff as hell, but he's my coach. So I had to set that aside, but it was super cool, and it's exactly what I kind of expected, because I heard about other Tough Enoughs. I started doing a bunch of research about Tough Enoughs. They basically want to kill you and make you quit. They want to push you past those limits and basically have you personally quit. And
Well, for sure, that's how that Tough Enough was, right? I mean, the most recent one they did was a little bit different. They had people swimming in lakes for floating plastic alligator heads.
I was in a cheerleading outfit. Which definitely helped my wrestling career. Thanks, Tough
I
Enough.
think like it felt like that your season of Tough Enough, like one of the big storylines was like sort of, you're a loudmouth and you're cocky, and I think that they really presented that to fans for a few weeks, but then you could really back it up like athletically and in the ring. Like how much of the hand of production did you feel while you were there doing it?
I felt it mostly during interviews. I think they had a different. It's reality TV, but they will try and push. Hey, this guy looks. you look totally like a bad guy, so we're going to try and make him say some bad guy things, and we can edit the way we'd like. But they can't make you say, hey, say this for us, because it's not reality TV.
Oh, trust me, they do that. I'm not saying that that particular,
Show.
production did it, but that's definitely something done in reality TV.
Absolutely.
Recreate scenes and like, oh yeah.
I remember one time it was like our second day, and we weren't allowed to talk to each other, and I just heard about Matt Cross. I hadn't had any personal experience with him. And I remember one of the interviews was like, he has all these friends there at the WWE, and he's still here at Tough Enough. Does that piss you off somehow? I'm like, why would that piss me off that he has friends in the WWE and he's still trying to get a spot? Like, I don't know why that pissed me off. It does piss you off, doesn't it? No, it doesn't. So I think that kind of...
Please be pissed off.
Please be pissed off.
We really need you to be pissed off.
And actually, there was a guy named Luke Robinson who's actually played the cocky, more, I guess, heel of that show, if you wanted to play it.
How's he doing?
I don't think he did anything. He was the one that had the little tryout with Matt during the show that Matt doesn't do everything he's supposed to do, and that was the show he got let go on. And when they asked him, like, well, you have all this experience, why weren't you out there doing things? And he's like, permission to speak, sir? And Austin's like, yeah, here's your permission.
So after Tough Enough, was how long from that experience until you made your way down to Mexico?
Oh, Mexico. Well, it took about, I ended up breaking my ankle.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, freaking accident. I've watched it a million times, trying to figure out what I could have done different. Nothing. It's just a freak accident, but everything happens for a reason. So Tough Enough was 2011. I was probably back in the ring by the end of 2011. Lucha Underground was 2000. It was a couple of years. Because then I went back on the indie scene. I did some WWE more tryout stuff with them, and then after Lucha Underground is when my AAA stuff started because Vampiro.
Okay. So your So your AAA stuff came after Lucha Underground.
Yeah.
I had the impression that it was first.
Yeah, no, it was Lucha Underground first. Then because Vampiro said I like kind of what you're doing here, we're gonna take you to AAA. So that's how my whole Mexico thing started.
And so at that, and is Vamp's role at AAA kind of like a talent relations role, or what is that? What's he doing?
He kind of runs everything over there.
Yeah.
So he's the guy behind the camera telling them where the cameras are. Hey, say this on commentary, and he is pretty much doing everything in
AAA.
Yeah, in AAA. And he's the talent relations for Lucha Underground, which that was as of last season. So that's new. But we started Lucha Underground, then that got me to AAA. So fun times.
Yeah. So how was your AAA experience? Like, what are you supposed to tell me? Especially if you're still dealing with them. Sorry.
I'm still dealing with them, yeah.
All right, never mind.
Let's just say it's interesting. It's Mexico.
Yeah.
It's always a blast wrestling in front of thousands and thousands of people.
They're great, right?
Oh my gosh, it's a different environment than like the temple. The temples, you can only fit like 300 to 400 people in there, max. Like what, maybe 300, 400? And they're loud. It's very intimate versus the AAA, the WWE, where there's 14,000 people, etc.
Yeah, and they're going nuts, and like you just getting old-fashioned heat on the baby bases, and they're going. If the baby bases sell it, because a lot of them won't sell for you, but the ones that do, the smart ones that do, oh my God, the place goes nuts.
Insane,
right? It's like so satisfying.
It's so nice, and you get to be so much slower, which I love, because especially at Lucha Underground, these guys do all these flips and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll just kick you when you come down, bro. Just tell me when you're coming back down to the ground, and so I can take my sweet time. I like going slow.
What's the craziest experience you've seen or had in a lucha crowd?
In a lucha crowd.
You ever have a cup of piss thrown on you?
It's always stuff warm. I imagine it's beer, but I don't know. I always tell myself it's beer.
Yeah.
I've always had beer thrown on me every single time in Mexico. I don't
Shitty
know if that's
diaper?
a thing. Oh, I haven't had that one.
Have
it's mostly
you?
drinks. Yeah, congrats, man.
A little plastic baggie full of pica, the hot sauce. That when it hits you, it leaves a red mark on you. Yeah.
Wow, that's preemptive.
Yeah, they got a lot of things they can. Yeah, they're pretty creative down there.
Worse than Puerto Rico?
Similar.
Okay.
Yeah, quite similar.
And they'll stay after the shows. They'll be there before the shows. Like, they don't care. Like, they will wait until they see you and get a picture with you.
Did you just do TVs down there, Marty, or did you do the house show runs?
I only did TVs.
Okay,
They
so
wouldn't
you
do
didn't
the
get the
house
full
show.
you didn't get the full
Mexico
experience. Trust me.
Take the diaper tour.
Yeah.
I would like that just so I can have the experience.
Oh, yeah.
And then go right backstage.
It's not a good experience. I'm just being honest with you. It's look that's the thing. Like the things that we won't accept up here generally, like the luchadors in Mexico, they're used to dealing with, and they're just they put up with it. They tolerate it, and it's just the way they do things down there. They'll go, I did this, so I know it for a fact. A 12-hour bus ride, work in Oaxaca, 12-hour bus ride back, and get on another bus. Don't even go take a shower, in between or, anything. Get right on another bus, go to another show.
Absolutely.
And that's just, that's just such hard workers down there, man. Incredible.
Absolutely. And they even have, even cultural differences, like toilet paper.
Yeah, you better bring your own.
Better bring your own from the hotel, especially because they have me paint my face. I'm part of the clown getting stuff out there, and so I have nothing to wipe it off with. I'm like, oh, I have to use the bathroom too. I'll just go get some toilet paper. Like, no, that's not there in some of these arenas. So you just better bring it from the hotel.
Wow.
What?
You better hold it. Yeah.
So where did you stay at? Did you stay at the Hotel Fornos?
Yes.
You
Yes,
did?
I did. I
All
stayed at
right.
Forest for one on. There's some Travel Lexico, something like that.
The Hotel Fornos is the hotel that pretty much it's right near Arena Mexico.
Yeah.
But Arena Mexico guys and AAA guys would stay there. Like, it was just a really famous, and it's kind of and it's honestly it's a hotel that when guys like businessmen are cheating on their wives, they bring the girl to this hotel. Yeah.
Why,
That's
you charge
exactly
by the hour or something like that?
Yeah,
too?
well, sort of. I mean, they're just it's pretty cheap to get a hotel down there.
And the fans, since it's so close to the arena, the fans are walking out, so they'll see wrestlers, so they'll just hang out outside the hotel room. So if you're the single dude,
And then there's little Panda restaurant that Panda the luchador owns. That's right, right down the street.
oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
That's awesome. I wish I would have ate there. Dang.
Yeah, that's pretty good too.
So many wrestling pandas now.
I know, right? The one that lives with
Johnny,
Morrison and
Johnny,
them,
And also there's one in Northern California, Ultra Panda. That,
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Has a
He does,
secret identity.
comedy.
Yeah.
He does, comedy
Wrestling's
wrestling.
changing, man.
Yeah.
Wrestling's changing now.
always
Gimmick.
changing.
Yeah.
Well,
nonstop.
originally in Lucha Underground, you weren't supposed to be the crazy Marty the Moth character you are now. You were supposed to be a magician, right?
I was supposed to be a magician, and I was supposed to be Mil Muertes. If you guys know the show, I was supposed to be Mil Muertes.
Ricky Banderas'
Ricky
character.
Banderas'
awesome.
character. Yeah,
Wow.
I'm very glad I
How
didn't
did
get that right.
yeah,
Really?
How did they decide not to put you in that role? Or
I guess they found Ricky. Well, they had me actually wrestle the very first match with him as Mil Muertes. I ended up. I can't be a serious guy. I'm not a serious guy. I'm a goof off. That's what I do. So I can be that character, but they just didn't see it in me. And they saw it with Ricky. Ricky's
Well, because
legit
that
tough
fits
guy.
Ricky.
That
if you
fits
know
Ricky.
Ricky and if you ever watched him as Macias, I mean, that's pretty
Yeah,
much it.
that's surprising to me because basically Mil Muertes seems like basically a character you create if you're well, we've got Judas Macias coming in.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
put a mask on him.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
He wears contacts.
it fits him perfect. They actually had me as a magician first off.
What was the name?
Tarbosh, the Egyptian magician.
Phantasmo.
If you never heard Jerky Boys, you're probably going, what? That's an old Jerky. Never mind. Jerky Boys were this one thing.
prank
Anyways,
calls.
we'll talk.
People used to have telephones,
Yeah.
and you would have to
crank calls
pick
someone.
them up and answer them.
They actually had me as Marty or Magnificent Martin, and I was walked out by the beautiful Brenda, who's
Oh,
walking on
hey.
Famous B right now, and she's a trick.
I just can you do magic tricks?
Nah, I can make your money disappear if you get liquor. Does that work? Does that count?
Yeah, but I mean,
Why?
I
Why
have
this
no
character?
idea where they had this character,
yeah.
and then I won all right, I'm a magician, so I want to do the best I can. I'm gonna make a magician thing work. So did you have a cape or a hat or something magician-like? They're like, no. Like, all right, give me that. It was bed sheet or something that was hanging up in the wardrobe. I'm like, give me that, I'll wear that. They're like, you're not gonna wear a bed sheet out. But yeah, no, I ended up getting a concussion that day. We were talking about pink earlier, and the salmon shirt,
Pink's
rocking
fine.
on. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good with pink.
I was actually wearing hot pink shorts with a peacock on my penis, and I woke up in the emergency room like with no shirt. They didn't give me a shirt on. Frogs are in here, crazy, right?
Yeah. I hear them all the way over on the couch.
They're in here.
I just cut the biggest fart probably.
I'm
Ever
sure the
cut
mic's
in a
picked it up, Sean.
It's like the
Ever.
fourth one today.
No one's ever cut a fart that big in the
my
studio.
God.
It's never picked up on the mics.
Sorry,
like
That
Marty.
one
Yeah, that's
echoed.
fine. What better way
You
to
didn't
end the
have the
story?
other
There you go.
three that he did?
No.
No.
Back to your story.
So you had a
Sorry.
peacock on your penis.
Yeah. It was the penis thing made me fart.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah.
It's a Pavlovian thing. Like,
Ah, no, that's actually the best way to end a story right there. Boom. I woke up in the emergency room with a peacock on my dick.
And I had
no
a
shirt.
peacock on my penis, and then
And then boom. That's pretty much
And
the
he woke up
experience
with a
right there.
concussion.
But because of they are owned by MGM, I couldn't wrestle for 3 months because of insurance reason. So because of that, I was one of the first signed at Lucha Underground, but I couldn't wrestle. Like the taping was only 2.5 months long.
Yeah.
So I wasn't in most of season 1. So they had like, all right, you're signed, just kind of hang out. I'm like, all right, I'm wrestling on the indies, I'm wrestling at AAA, but I can't wrestle here because of insurance. So
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, this is great. Oh well, worked out for me.
Are you still getting paid?
No.
Oh.
Yeah.
And so you were on season 4 then, right?
Season 4 is taping now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're taping it
So
right
you're
now.
doing it right now.
Oh yes.
You know they asked me to be part of that.
What
I
the
just
heck?
couldn't do it. Yeah.
Just-
I could do it, but then once they found out I had a Legends contract with WWE, yeah, but WWE said go ahead, that's fine, no
What?
problem. But they still didn't want to do it. They just never. When I told them that, they,
wanna fix
yeah,
that.
Joseph never contacted me again.
What?
But I appreciate him reaching out. Like it meant a lot to me.
Is that something I need to follow up on?
No,
Gotta make that
no.
All right. Well,
No.
that was X-Pac and
Have
Lucha
him in the
Underground.
moth.
How about
Have
that?
him in the moth.
Have him in the Moth Tribe.
Yeah.
Be crazy. Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, I'm not going to say what they wanted me to be a part of because I don't want to be in, like part of giving out any spoilers.
Spoilers.
Yeah.
Cease and desist.
I don't want that
Cease
later.
and desist.
but
Yes.
talk to him this week because there's 3 more days of taping, right?
Yeah.
2 more days of taping
more
actually.
days, too.
Ultima Lucha, so that could be fun to work out.
What's that?
You getting your ass down there and just saying, hey.
Yeah.
To Lucha, yeah, dude. Friday and Saturday.
give him one of the-
Ultima Lucha
give him
4.
one of those.
Where's that?
Essentially our WrestleMania. That's Friday and Saturday. At the old. Do you know the address? I don't know the address.
It's an old ice station.
Ice stage.
It's a cold storage basically
Okay.
that they
Yeah.
converted into the new temple.
The new
okay.
space
Pretty
is
close to
amazing.
like Boyle Heights. It's pretty cool actually. We have all of our sets and wardrobe, everything in there. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it
It's
looks
such a
awesome.
better setup. It's amazing. It's
It
incredible.
is, and it's interesting now because all these people gave out spoilers all the time at Lucha,
Yeah.
as they do. But
Like
then-
Ryan sat in that pro wrestling
Oh
sheet.
my god. That letter back though was priceless. What you wrote back to them.
I haven't seen the letter.
Oh, the
I
letter
haven't
back
I
to them.
understand. I understand
Oh my
where
gosh.
each side's coming from on that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That letter back was.
But it worked because I haven't seen any spoilers for the last week or the week before that. So, all right. So we'll see how this works.
So I guess without giving too much away, what can we expect from your character, Marty the Moth, on Lucha Underground this upcoming season?
Yeah.
Craziness. Like you should be expecting that. What can I do that's not spoiler?
Well, the craziest thing already is how fast you're able to grow your hair back.
brother, good vitamins, right?
Good
Do
vitamins.
any of these supplements have anything to do with it?
Absolutely, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a good multivitamin. Like we were talking about before, I have
Yeah.
Lyme disease, so all these.
Well, I was going to ask you if you wanted to talk about that.
Oh yeah, sure. Why not? I don't care.
All right.
I have Lyme disease, so I can't like absorb like food and nutrients that as well as other people.
Yeah.
So I found this stuff. It actually skips that and goes exactly right into your cells. So
And what is this?
these I actually opened up a partner with a company here.
Yeah.
These right here, that one is sleep, so that's gonna help you. I'm sorry, that's gonna help you get some better sleep. It clears out your brain while you're sleeping. So that's helped a lot of people. Chavo really like that.
And it's what's it called?
It's called Sleep.
And what's the name of the
it in.
supplement company?
Viseo. And it's on my website, martincasaus.com, so go there and buy it.
Say it again.
martincasaus.com.
How do you spell that?
Casaus. If you Google Marty the Moth, it's the first one to come
All
up.
right, I just want to make sure everyone knows where they
can get
go
it.
to find
Appreciate
out.
that.
Yeah.
Then I got the green one. There's the Renew, is actually for anti-inflammatory and post-workout stuff. So that's actually helped me a lot, especially those flights. Like flying to Japan, that sucked
Yeah.
to my knees.
So the Lyme disease, what are the symptoms of that?
There's very different symptoms for everybody.
Yeah.
With mine in particular, it messed with my hormones. It has brain fog, so like I couldn't remember very well. Kind of like when you wake up right in the very beginning of your morning, you're like, okay, I'm at my house, I'm in my bed, da da da. It's kind of like a hangover thing. That's kind of where I stayed for 10 years.
Yeah.
Just in that like
Haze.
yeah, dead haze. So it kind of sucks. So I had to take like Adderall, Vyvanse, stuff like that for focus. I drank like 7 energy drinks a day for ever, just to try and stay awake through the day. I was
Does
super
anyone
tired.
ever just think that, hey, just suck it up? Like, does anyone ever just think it's like, you know what I mean?
Absolutely said that all the
It's really
time.
frustrating, right?
I said that to myself 1,500
I
times.
wondered that.
Yeah, I said it to myself, like maybe there's nothing wrong with me, just I'm supposed to be this tired, and that's what everybody else is too. But now that I've found out that it's Lyme disease, I can treat it a little bit better and use these supplements to help make you feel good. So I'm very glad I didn't give up and just say, screw this, I'm supposed to feel.
And I was talking to you before we started recording today and mentioning Kris Kristofferson.
Yes.
Obviously famous actor and songwriter, and whose son Jody was in FCW, NXT. I'm not sure. I think he had a neck injury that put him out now. Like he had neck surgery, and I think he's done. Unfortunately,
Yeah, he retired.
Yeah.
Oh, did he? Bummer.
Yeah, but the thing is that his father, the legendary Kris Kristofferson, they thought they diagnosed him with dementia several years back, and so just figure they accepted the diagnosis and figured that he was just going to fade away, and it turns out he was Lyme disease, and they could treat it, and they treated it, and I think he got his mind back. And I'm wondering if like that brain fog you're talking about was the onset of that type of symptom.
It very well could.
And if you didn't figure this out, you very well could have ended up like that.
Oh, I very much agree. I very well could have. I just had my birthday, so I'm 33 now. By the time I would have been 50, if I wouldn't have done something, I'm sure I would have been getting help and sitting in a chair being a vegetable somewhere.
Wow.
Luckily, I did find this. I don't take my Adderall anymore. I have a brain supplement as well that helps with brain fog. So I don't take that anymore. I don't drink energy drinks anymore. I have my V3. Everything's all natural and vegan. So I feel good for the first time in my life. And
Do you eat a vegan diet?
no, I don't. I eat like shit, to be honest.
Okay. That's all right.
Well,
I mean, no, it's not, but
it's not. Well, I eat pretty good, and then it's just the weekends.
Yeah.
We're on the road, and when you're on the road doing that, I eat pretty bad there. But I feel better than I have in 10 years, and because of Lyme disease, and they're different. This is Lyme disease, this is Lyme disease, brain fog, da 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 da. It's so hard to diagnose. I had to go to the doctor. I spent thousands and thousands of doctors just trying to get diagnosed what is wrong with me. It took over a decade, and I finally found it. So if you have Lyme disease, don't give up. It gets better.
Well, I mean, if you have it, there's a good chance that you have no clue that's what it is, or like the same thing that you had to go through.
I was diagnosed with depression. I was diagnosed with athletic asthma or something like that, or asthma.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I got
I
that
was
one.
diagnosed with that, but it wasn't. It didn't end up being the right diagnosis.
Yeah, then they diagnosed me with some
Sports-induced
other things.
asthma.
Yes, that's what it is. Sports induced. Yeah, they got me with that. Then they said there was like 1 or 2 other diagnoses. I'm like, there's no way. Like, I feel pretty happy. I'm not depressed. Like, I'm just super, super tired. So, yeah, it's hard to figure out and diagnose correctly.
Do you think that, like, in a weird way, this kind of helped you out in terms of, like, being more, like, self-aware about your body and your health, therefore contributing to helping you out with your wrestling career? Or how has that been? Obviously, there's, like, tons of pros and cons.
100%, absolutely. After Tough Enough, Steve Austin was super nice. He gave me a cell phone. He kept in touch. He critiqued some of my matches. I'm like, all right, this is super cool. Like, and I asked him straight up, all right, well, what could I have done better? He's like, honestly, you probably would have won if you hadn't broken your leg. I'm like, oh, that's good to hear from the man himself.
Yeah.
But the only thing I would change is WWE likes big guys. Put on some weight. I hired a personal trainer. I put on 40 pounds. Just eating, changing my diet.
Yeah.
Diet is so important. Just changing my diet and because I got diagnosed with Lyme disease, I knew what was affecting me negatively. I knew kind of my body does this because I've tried to play with foods and stuff.
Yeah.
So it definitely has helped me in my career to know what my body likes and not likes because I've done all these different tests on it. And then I went and got my testing done, and I was like allergic to everything because of Lyme disease. Like beef, chicken, pretty much everything good and everything bad. So I'm pretty much, if I eat, I'm screwed. But it's fixing, and I feel better now. So sweet.
Well, you've been in Lucha Underground since season 1. We're taping season 4 right now. What is something that Lucha could do better in season 4 that they haven't done in the prior 3 seasons?
Bring us back quicker. It's been 2 years since we taped last, and granted, Lucha Underground isn't a wrestling company. It's a TV show. That's what I love about it more than anything. It's a TV show, but it sucks if we don't come back for 2 years. Bring us back a year earlier.
At least you're allowed to go work somewhere else now.
Now,
Yeah.
yes. Before, we couldn't.
Well, I mean, but we can't really keep worrying about before.
Correct.
You know, I mean,
Correct.
yeah, that sucked.
Absolutely.
That was BS. But like, this is, I mean, at least you can do it now.
Now it's past. I honestly think this is going to be, these next couple years are going to be just stellar as far as my career in acting and wrestling and supplements. Obviously, you're smart enough to do, okay, I did wrestling, now I'm going to use that to here on this show.
Yeah.
Multiple streams of income, and so that's why I started
Diversify.
this. That's right.
That's what you have to do in the year 2018.
That's right. I was a stockbroker till about 9 months ago for Fidelity Investments. Yeah.
Everybody's face was like, what?
I know. I love watching people's faces. Jimbo's face, she's like,
You gotta finance the chasing of the dream somehow.
that's right. Yeah. I had no idea what I wanted to do, so I got my college degree, and I'm like, now what? Mom and Dad told me to get a college degree, so get a job, I guess. I became a stockbroker, and here we are. Now I'm not doing that shit and crap anymore.
Hey, man, we have to take a break and come back with Mick. Is there
Yes, there
give
is.
us some like what you have going on right now, like you know, the supplements or any projects outside of Lucha Underground we haven't talked about.
Yeah, I'm actually in a film called Good Enough that's coming out. I'm acting in that. I was in the last Adam Sandler movie, but that's before. There's another film that's coming up I can't talk about, but you'll see it on my social media. Martin
The Sandy
Casaus.
whatever movie.
Sandy Wexler.
Yeah,
that was
Sandy
cool.
Wexler.
That's on Netflix. That's on Netflix, hanging out with Terry Crews. Honestly, I am doing acting, my supplement company, and I'm shooting Lucha Underground right now. All my films and everything I put on Martin Casaus, like on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. It's all there. I'm doing films. I'm helping people with the supplements. I'm giving you these 2 bottles, so they're yours.
Thank you very
to
much.
freaking enjoy, and I want to hear some feedback if I can.
Absolutely.
And just rocking out in wrestling. So follow me. Go to martincasaus.com. Order some stuff. In fact, because of this show, I put a discount code on all my shirts.
Yeah.
Boom. All my shirts, the Marty The Moth
Sweet
shirt.
Mothman looking shirt.
10% off if with the code X-Pac on my
Nice.
site.
Did you hear that?
Awesome.
Check that out.
Gonna have to go to the site, buy some stuff.
Sweet. Hey, well, we're going to go take a break right now, and we're going to come back with the real Mick Foley. No, I think it's just real Mick Foley with no the on it, right?
Bang,
All right,
bang.
be right back. Hey, X-Pac 12360 fans, I just wanted to tell you 2 ways that you can support the show to help it grow. First, if you've ever wanted to shout out a surprise message for various occasions from me, all you have to do is visit celebvm.com/Sean Waltman to request a video today. Not only does it support the show, but a portion of the proceeds go to charity. Second, visit prowrestlingtees.com/Sean Waltman. That's the only place to grab shirts with the X-Pac 12360 logo, Wolfpack, or many other designs. If you pick up a shirt, make sure to tweet us using the hashtag X-Pac12360. That's celebvm.com/Sean Waltman for a personal message from me, X-Pac. And prowrestlingtees.com/Sean Waltman for X-Pac, Wolfpack, and X-Pac 12360 gear. Thanks for supporting the show. Now let's get back to it. Welcome back to X-Pac 12360. On the phone right now. I'm really excited to be joined by Mick Foley. Thank you so much, Mick.
Yeah.
That's a bigger pop than I used to get at my matches. So thank you for that, guys. And congratulations on this gig, Sean. You're
Thanks.
very much deserving of it.
Thank you, Mick. I appreciate that. And you're one of the guys that a few years back, when I started pulling myself up out of the darkness, you're one of the first guys that started believing in me again. And I won't forget that, Mick.
Well, yeah. I try to call him like I see him, and I believed in you, and I saw you, doing your very best, and then I saw you, of all places, to put on like a wrestling exhibition. You don't think of the Gathering as that.
Gathering
place.
of the Juggalos.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
At 2 o'clock
when you're
in the
dodging
morning.
debris and stuff,
Yeah.
and I was like, man, I was doing the commentary with Kevin Gill, and I was like, he still got it, and I thought you'd be a great guy to have around the guys to, kind of be that Fit Finley type of, teaching wrestler. And, maybe that didn't work out, but you're certainly reaching a lot of people with your voice on this show.
Oh,
so.
for sure. Yeah, and things work out how they're supposed to. But, hey, Mick, do you remember the first time we met by any chance?
Oh, man, no,
I'll
tell
tell
me.
you.
Maybe you'll ring a bell.
And I asked that. I ask everyone that question when they come on here because I usually do. And it was I think we had was it not SummerSlam '95 in Pittsburgh.
Oh,
and you were at the hotel.
Yeah, that's right. I just, I
you
remember
were so
seeing
burned.
you and
your arm
Kevin.
was all burned up.
Yeah, I was wrestling Sabu that night in an independent show, and I'd come back from the Kawasaki Dream tournament in pretty rough shape, better known as the King of the Death Match. And literally while I was wrestling, all the gauze came off, and it was just a hideous. It was all the kind of the burns where they were really, really fresh there.
Yeah.
And it was. I in retrospect, I probably should have taken a couple of weeks off after that tournament. But the mindset, that's just not something you even consider at that point in your career.
And honestly, Mick, people go, "Oh, these things were unnecessary back then." But I think I look at it differently. Like those things that people think are unnecessary, I think they are necessary at the time to get where we need to go. In a certain, and it's. I mean, maybe to a certain. I mean, I don't want to I don't want to encourage people to do stupid things, but you know what I mean? Like, some of the certain calculated risks we take early on in our career are there for a greater purpose.
Yeah, when people ask me if I have regrets, and I'll say, well, I probably shouldn't have been dropping elbows off of ring aprons in front of really small crowds, on independent shows. But then you go, but if I hadn't been of that mindset where every match was the most important match, I probably wouldn't have gotten to where I did. And I remember, saying words to that effect, like, hey, you don't have to do that every night to CM Punk when he was all banged up. And he was like, if I didn't, I wouldn't be here. So It's easy to say I shouldn't have. I mean, clearly, we should have done different things as far as protecting ourselves and chair shots to the head and things like that. And you could argue that the whole deathmatch concept is ludicrous, but I knew exactly what I was signing up for, and that's what it was. That's what it was advertised as. And, I mean, I could blame Terry Funk for claiming that we needed to have explosives in the middle. In addition, they set that thing off in the outfield the afternoon before the fans got in, and it sounded, it was the most terrifying thing in the world. And I think my voice rose like 3 octaves. I was like, there's no way. Like, and then Terry goes, well, that looks good, but I think we need another round right in the middle.
Right.
And
That sounds like Terry.
If we have explosives on each side and the middle, where are we going to land? And he went, oh, it'll be fine. And it wasn't fine. It absolutely was not fine. And that's actually, that'll be like, I know, you and I mentioned that I was going to talk about my the upcoming show and the 20 Years of Hell tour.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if I have to trace back like where that match started, it would be in Japan when Terry Funk became my mentor, where against my wife's wishes, I would listen to Terry.
Yes.
And so, having explosives on both sides of the middle seemed like a good idea to Terry, then eventually seemed like a good idea to me. And if starting the match on top of the cell seemed like a good idea to Terry, it struck me as being a good idea too. So I'm looking forward to having a lot of fun. Terry's going to figure very prominently in this upcoming show, and going to try to take people on a nice.
Terry's going to be involved. Is he going to be there?
He won't be there. I'm going to see if I can get him out there, but I'm just like saying his presence will be felt. He was one of my biggest influences, and not only literally, coming up with the idea to start the match on top of the cell, but also, kind of instilling in me the idea that, being hardcore is not about a chair or a table or a branding iron, but it's more about, giving people more than, they bargained for, going above and beyond, to entertain fans. Yeah. And by that definition, I think there are a lot of people who are hardcore.
Well, Terry to me is the original hardcore guy.
Yeah. So not only was he doing what I did, but he was 20 years older, and most of the stuff we did that would have gotten us arrested in countries around the world was his idea.
Well, they were doing some crazy stuff on Amarillo TV back in the day.
I wasn't privy to that, but yeah, when they would say like, the bigger the territory as far as cities go, like the less. The work didn't have to be quite as solid because there were going to be more people who could take their place in arenas, whereas you were working around the towns in Amarillo and West Texas, like you had to bring those same people back, on a weekly, monthly, and sometimes even weekly basis. And so, you had to keep pushing the envelope. And there's some rugged, it's a rugged part of the country out there. So to be tougher than the average guy working an oil field, you sometimes got to, have to push the bar a little further.
Speaking of Texas, Mick, you and we both work for GWF, and the crazy thing is, Global Wrestling Federation, that was on ESPN. Joe Pedicino, I'm just kind of real quick running that info off for people that don't know about GWF. But it was weird because it seemed like you were working for them and WCW at the same time, Mick. And I was. And I never crossed paths with you in GWF at the Sportatorium.
Yeah, it was, I was only there a couple of weeks. This was when Joe Pedicino, supposedly, he really thought he had a legit, backer with millions of dollars.
Max Andrews.
And yeah. No, it wasn't Max.
Oh, Carol Lindsay.
No, it's a Nigerian, not the Nigerian scheme, but a legitimate.
Olu Oliamu, or something like that.
Was that it?
Yeah.
I did not know, politically that you weren't supposed to be working for both companies, especially when I was, I was being featured on WCW in a program with Sting, and then I was, losing. It was a good match.
It's good with Terry Gordy.
Me and Terry Gordy, which was a cool match, just because Terry wasn't the kind of guy who'd call anything backstage, and it was a lot of give and take, and
didn't you get
hang with a guy.
Didn't you get powerbombed on the floor?
Yeah. I did. Granted, that was the wooden floor, but it was still a rough landing. To this day, I don't think I've ever seen that match. It won't live up to
Mick,
my memories of it.
Hey, that wooden floor is a lot softer than the ring at the Sportatorium.
Man, that thing, it never came down, right?
No.
It was just there for decades on end, so there wasn't a lot of give in it. But eventually it was, Magnum said, we need you to, kind of make a choice. And then, he and I just talked about it. I just saw him a couple weeks ago at a horror convention of all things in Carolina. And, they offered me a pretty standard contract and said it was, kind of the carrot, and that next year it would be more. And I just looked at him. I said, Magnum, you've seen the way I wrestle. Like, there might not be a next year for me. And he said, I'm going to recommend, you get the bigger. I mean, it's not a secret. It was $3,000 a week, which was,
that's pretty
all the
good,
money
man.
in the world to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a pretty good WCW
I did my own
contract.
Negotiating, and it was made a world of difference, and it allowed me to have a family and get a mortgage, and who knows, if it hadn't been for GWF, I don't know if I would have had the confidence to ask for more money out of the gate.
I really like that. I like Joe's vision, though. Like, I mean, it was, and Joe just, I mean, I hope that guy's doing good, because he I owe that guy a lot. Like, he gave me the first, international or national platform so everyone could see me. So, anyways.
Yeah, I've been hearing about you for years, on the independent scene, and then, I think of all the debuts. It wasn't your debut, but that win over Razor, that was something that very few fans who ever saw will ever forget. Deserving of the high rating it gets in Raw's greatest moments.
It should have gotten a higher rating, Mick. That poll was fixed, I tell you. Hey, man.
Well, when I was watching it, I was like, all right, the fans obviously going to lean towards things that happened in the last few years.
Yeah.
And you see things, I don't know, ask again in 10 years and see if a few of these more recent moments stand up. But the fact that was, 22, 23 years ago?
Yeah. The one that I'm really grateful to be a part of that ranked really high, can't remember how high it was on the list, but was when you won the title and we were out there with you. So I was part of that moment.
Yeah. We got the poster there where you're... To this day, I maintain that it was like you see the look on your face, you get this huge smile on your face, and a Road Dogg, big smile, Triple H, and then Billy Gunn does not look happy.
No.
To this day, I'm like, he says he wasn't happy because he had to support my big butt on his shoulders. I maintain he's not happy because he was thinking, this should be me.
Should be me, yeah. No, but wow, Mick, how could we not have those big ass smiles on our faces? Like those were about as authentic of happy smiley faces as you could get, man.
Yeah, that was a fun few weeks where I was like kind of like an honorary DX member. I can't even remember how that started, but you guys were out there with me.
It just started organically.
Yeah, it was very organic because I was like such an oddity, and you guys kind of embraced me, and you saw I had the odds stacked against me, so it was. It was a lot of fun.
And Mick, even the moment after you won, that moment of all us in the ring, that wasn't planned. We didn't talk about that beforehand.
No, and I look back, like I wrote about this in the first book. I think Rock and I had better matches than that, but the fact that there was so much going on, that night meant we didn't really have a chance to discuss anything.
Yeah. And
so it just had that feel, like an authentic feel that you can't get when you work too many things out.
Yeah.
And then it was just really, it was like that kind of magic in the air that I've always said you can't script. Like that's always the wild card. You can have the greatest workers in the world, and sometimes there's just that element of magic's missing. But that night, it was there, and Stone Cold's music hit, and the place went crazy, and we got the 3 count, and then of course the ratings played into our really worked out, and that night became a real watershed moment for the company.
Yeah, it was. Go ahead, Denise.
Yeah, I wanted to know, where did the idea from Mankind come from, and who was, I guess I can say, the forefront in creating that?
Well, I officially signed a document saying that WWE created the character or the mannerisms. But I don't think Mr. McMahon will mind if I tell you. They gave me a mask.
Right.
They gave me a mask, and found out through Bruce Pritchard like 15 years later that the mask was just Mr. McMahon's concession. He literally said, and this is something I said on the Cheap Pop special. He said, "All right, I'll bring him in, but I'm covering up his face." So the mask was a prototype that had been made for Undertaker when he had fractured his orbital bone.
Right.
And they wanted him to, he wanted to come back. They wanted him back. He was such a valuable part of the company, and they couldn't just put him in something generic, And so they had the creative team coming up with ideas, and eventually went with kind of a really cool Phantom of the Opera type look. But the Mankind mask was a prototype that had been drawn that Mr. McMahon liked, and he was looking for somebody to wear it. And I guess, like I said, his concession to Jim Ross, who'd been working really hard on my behalf, was, all right, I'll bring him in. But he's, I'm covering up his face. And once I became sold on the idea, because honestly, I didn't think Cactus Jack was something that needed removing or repairing. It had kind of worked,
Yes.
wherever I'd gone. But it was a chance to try something different, and I really put my mind and my heart into it. Came up with a bunch of different things and a backstory that made the character feel real to me, and I just had to, because the character was really dark when it started in '96. I had to find a way to kind of get into that groove, and I was lucky that I was able to experiment and come up with a lot of things on my own, and that also that Mr. McMahon, took a lot of my ideas, like the alternative entrance and exit music, and the name itself, Mankind. So yeah, although I did sign that document saying they owned it, I had a lot of freedom to create that character.
The one thing that sticks out in my mind, Mick, from the early days of you doing that character was just of how all in you were on that, and just to the point where you would cut your hair and pull your hair out during, pull clumps of your hair out during your promos. And I'm like, man, this is going to get over because this guy's going all effing in on this.
Well, yeah, I mean, I take Mr. Miyagi's words to heart when he said, you stand on one side of the road, you're fine. You stand on the other, you're fine. You stand in the middle, you get squashed like a grape. So you either do it or you don't, but you don't, do anything halfway, especially in WWE.
Yeah.
Well, you had so many memorable matches with so many different wrestlers. When you look back at your career, like for you personally, what would you say is that moment that always just stands out for you, or that specific match or a specific worker?
Oh, there were a lot of them, and I would say before I give you a vague answer, that I think that the thing that I brought to the table is that the character, both Cactus Jack and Mankind, to a lesser extent, Dude Love, but the character worked well with a lot of different performers. That it worked well against the Undertaker, and the chemistry was really good against with Triple H, and it was like off the charts. Me and The Rock both as opponents, and even better as partners. So it just seemed to work well with a variety of different characters, and with all those guys, I had phenomenal moments. The Undertaker and the Hell in a Cell. I'll get a cheap plug for the 20 Years of Hell tour, which kind of recreates that match and that night on stage in 20 cities around the country. And then also with Steve Austin, it was just phenomenal to be in there with Steve, because literally everything you did in the ring was getting a better reaction than you'd ever dreamed of.
Yeah.
Like even the smallest. It was just every night was like, I don't want to say it was a night off, because Steve made sure it wasn't a night off. Like that's an ultimate compliment to some guys, but Steve he didn't want to be known as a night off. He wanted to be known as a guy who worked his butt off and brought out the best in you, and took and gave and made it really believable. And then the stuff with The Rock. So I mean, with Triple H, I had the two matches at the beginning of 2000, the Royal Rumble, and then the No Way Out retirement match. And then with The Rock, I had 5 or 6 really classic matches. The Undertaker and I went around the loop for months, and then ended up having our most memorable match 2 years after that first lockup. So there were a lot of great guys and a lot of great moments to pick from.
How about your stuff with Randy Orton?
Yeah. I mean, my favorite match of all time. This is where I tell people, have a plan B. Because back in the day when I could have an idea and be in Vince's office the next day pitching it, I literally said, okay, I haven't been in the ring, in 4 years. What if I go into the Royal Rumble and I win it? And because I haven't been on Raw or SmackDown, I challenge both champions to like a 3-way match, and I win that. I become the undisputed heavyweight champion. He just looked at me and said, I have no interest whatsoever in doing that. And I went, okay. I also have an idea for Randy Orton. and as soon as I started talking, he started writing down ideas, and he would say, I'm not sure I understand. And I would say, he would go on he would start filing political attack ads. And the company's done it since then, but I think mine was the first. And he was like, okay, I'm not sure I follow you. It's like, everyone hates those, just imagine him at a commercial that says, Mick Foley claims to be the hardcore legend, but is he really? And we just took that ball and ran with it, and Randy, really I think came into his own during that 12-week build-up, and again we had that chemistry and the match. It's my favorite match of all time, and I think to this day it's still his, or at least in the top 2 or 3, which was Backlash 2004.
Well, that was like in the early stages of Randy's career. Did you ever think that he would become as big as he did during that point when you were working with him?
Well, I don't think anyone looks and goes, geez, 13 years later, he'll be, 15-time world champion, whatever it's been. But I clearly, I knew he had the potential. Because when guys are looking to come back and create, angles, you want to do it with people that you believe in. So I definitely had that belief. In Randy, you look at the matches and the promos, and he looked like a kid out there. But yeah, he was great. He really trusted me, and there were guys in the company who didn't like where the angle was going, and I I assure him, I got your best interests at heart. In the end, it's going to work out, and I think he would tell everyone that they did.
I think that that helped make Randy Orton. Honestly, that particular angle you did with him, Mick.
Yeah, it changed. It's so much so.
You brought him to the next level.
I caught the red eye home from Edmonton, and my son Huey was he was like 1. He was dehydrated, so he was in the hospital. So I spent several hours in the hospital with him. I went home and Raw was on. And it was like palpable, the difference in the reaction. I think they were in Calgary the next night.
Yeah.
We're in Edmonton, and Randy Orton came out, and the difference in crowd reaction. There were a lot of cheers because people had seen the match, and they really respected him.
Yeah.
So I thought honestly it turned him babyface way too early. I think within 2 or 3 months he was Evolution had attacked him. And I hate to see a turn happen too early, but it was hard not to admire him after the beating he took in that match.
Yeah. Hey Mick, I'm working on my autobiography right now, and I try to do it myself, but I need someone to help me. So Maria Menounos' husband Kevin is writing it with me. Anyway,
nice.
Yeah, and he's a great author. The reason why I brought that up is because I was on the airplane with you on the way back from Europe when you were frustrated with how your first book was going, and you wrote damn near the whole book on the flight home.
I did not the whole book, but I did
lot
write
of
that
it.
entire. I think it was 2 legs. I think it was like 20 consecutive hours, including the flight, back from the States back to Pensacola, where I was living at the time. So I'd written some incredible amount of words in a single day by hand, but I did that whole thing in 50 days. It was 180,000 words, almost 4,000 handwritten words a day, and there were some days when I couldn't get to writing much because I had the WWE workload, but other days where I literally did nothing, but write all day long. And I don't know if anyone will ever have that type of, momentum, I guess, or that kind of feeling, like that, feeling of urgency. Because I did have a writer who was doing it, and I just thought, deep down, I was like, not deep down, I just thought, obviously, and I sounded crazy to Judith Regan at the time when I told her I wanted to do it myself, because, no athlete or celebrity, wrote their own, or I don't want to say no, but it was very, very rare, and especially the idea of a wrestler doing it seemed pretty shocking. And I just said, well, I'll tell you what, let me hand in something and we'll see if you like it. And a few days later, I sent in 72 pages of notebook paper, and she called me back and said, we like it. I think let's go for it. And thankfully there was a market for it, and it changed, opened up a lot of opportunities for me.
And for others, Mick.
Yeah. And even above and beyond the book, it just it made me see that you could try anything. Almost anybody's career. Mine has been marked by far more failures than successes, but you know, I've always said the worst thing in the world is to be, I don't know if I've always said this, it's probably not literally the worst thing in the world, but I don't want to be that guy sitting around on my couch 10 years down the line going, I should have done that. I should have given it a try. And so I do my best not to be that guy. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, but I don't often sit around going, I wonder what if.
Yeah. Nick, hey, we're getting towards the end of this, and I'm so grateful, like I said earlier, for your time. But I just wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about, like, you know, in depth the 20 Years of Hell tour. You know, because you've been hitting on that a little bit.
When I was, you know, I was starting. I was about 8 years ago when I, you know, went up on stage, and at that point, you know, I wanted to talk about other things outside of wrestling. You know, I mean, every guy, I think, starts out by talking about, you know, his body parts, because you can do it. You know, it's a lot, like in public. You know, I don't know. It's I think every comedian is drawn to that originally, and then yeah, I got that out of my system, and also realized when I went to the Just for Laughs festival in Montreal that there were like 250 funnier guys than me in the hotel, and that I've been kind of running away from this thing that made my show different, which was, you know, I had the stories and the coolest, like, real job in the world to talk about, and so once I realized that, the show's, it's almost like a guy with a gimmick, you know, a guy who works much better within the confines of a gimmick.
Yes.
It's, you know, it just, instead of saying, like, you can do any move in the world, everything is fair game, you know, you tighten it up and you say, here's your character, this is what your character would be doing. And once I realized that, you know, the shows really took off, got a lot better, were more interesting for me, because I could, even if it was a well-known story, I could rewrite it for the stage. And then it was really rewarding for me to see, you know, the writing I did, you know, work out the way I hoped it would, or find ways to adjust it, you know, even on a nightly basis, to find ways to make the stories as good as they can be. And I realized a few years ago, when these stories about the cell were really connecting, that I had the makings of something that I thought I could turn into a one-man show about that one night. So I'll take some of the ideas I may have thrown out there on stage, and I'll connect them, and I'll just work as hard as I can to make it the best show possible. And we're taking it to 20 cities, you know, in North America, and then to Australia as well. And if people are interested, and it sounds like something they'd like to, you know, experience, they can go to my website, which is realmickfoley.com, and hit the events page and see if I'm visiting a town near them.
For those of you in California, he'll be at the Ice House in Pasadena on May 3rd.
Yeah, those VIP tickets.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a great venue. It's a pretty intimate venue, and I have Ellen Foley opening up for me. So she's a great comic, and I just like the idea of you know, two Foleys on stage.
Was Dave Foley booked?
And then also look.
Yeah, we talked about that, to make it a trifecta at one time. So he and I keep in touch a little bit on social media.
And then for you guys who are looking, you definitely should check out the VIP package that they do have for the Ice House. It's like VIP meet and greet. You get to hang out in the lounge, and then you get to pick any seats in the 2 front rows in the Ice House. Which is absolutely amazing for $75.
Wow.
So I'm sure there's not gonna be that many tickets, so don't wait on that.
Well, I'm going to correct you, and this is something you probably shouldn't do, is you go out and say, hey, the tickets to the Ice House are like one of only 3 cities that are not moving quickly, so you can get those, you can get really good seats. But it's a small venue, and we do expect it to fill up as we get closer to showtime. But as of this moment, if you're near Pasadena, you can get tickets, and they'll be good ones too.
Well, before we let you go, I was curious, have you watched Beyond the Mat with Noel and Dewey as adults, and have Mickey and Huey seen Beyond the Mat?
Man, I don't think we have. I don't think we've watched that in a while as a family. Probably 10 years. Not since the younger ones were old enough to, you know, to appreciate it. Maybe we should do that. You know, they might get a kick out of seeing their older brother and sister breaking down in tears.
I ran into Barry Blaustein when Bruce Pritchard came to town for something to wrestle with.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. How's he doing?
I seem to be doing great. Yeah. He had a
I still
he had a
keep in
beautiful
touch
lady with him. He seemed to be happy.
Good. Yeah. I mean, it's funny that movie was almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I think he started talk to me in '95. Barry Bloom knocked on my door when I was at the not the Golden, I think it was the Silver or Copper Nugget off the Strip in Vegas. And he introduced me to Barry Blaustein. And at that point in the movie, I was supposed to be the guy who had had like a taste of the big time and was now back out, on the small, on the indie scene. And luckily things turned around for me. But yeah, we go back a long time.
Yeah.
That should be your next one-man show tour like that.
What's that?
With just talking about Beyond the Mat and how impactful it was to letting people.
Well, the nice thing about the one-man show is, even after I tell my stories, you get the Q&A, and some nights, the people touch on ideas or story, touch on subjects that I may not have thought of, and then they can turn into a story for the next tour. But then there are nights where the Q&A is probably better than the show itself.
We talked about your tour and all these dates you have upcoming. Are you going to be all in on September 1st?
I don't know. I really take my hat off to those guys. All those guys, they really, reached an audience, and I saw the phenomenon of the Bullet Club shirts, and spent a few hours writing about it, and I got hundreds of comments, and so many of them touched on the same thing, which was these guys have made watching wrestling fun for them.
Yeah.
Again. So a lot of them, it wasn't like when I was at the show, like people were anti Mick Foley. Like they were fans of mine as well. They were people who'd been fans who kind of, I think, kind of lost touch and then found something else they loved about it. That's one of the things I love about the business, is that it's not one size fits all, that there's a room somewhere. It's kind of a big tent, so you can find different shapes and sizes and, different styles. And those guys, all those guys, have a great appeal, and I wish them the very best. I don't know if I'll be part of it, but I'll certainly help get the word out, and I'll be rooting for it to be a big success for them.
Oh God, it just had the having fun. That whole part of your answer just made me think of this, Mick. Before we let you go, because I took it as well. The penis plex, the you pouring plex from Joey Ryan. Oh my God, Jim Cornette. Oh my God, he went crazy over
livid, that. Man. He was so upset with me. The funny thing to me was that Cordy said, like, Mick's too nice. He has to learn to say no. And my
thought was your idea.
Does he think this was not my idea? Like, I went out all day in Dublin doing, media for the Over the Top show. As two shows, one in Dublin, one in Belfast. And so Joe, the promoter, dropped me off, and I went, hold on. Like, I was getting out of the car. I said, do you mind if I come up with something for Joey Ryan? He said, whatever, you can do whatever you like. And so the next day, there were a couple of the Irish wrestlers around. I said, Joey, if I went for a mandible claw, like, could you do a leapfrog high enough? And then the guys kind of pop and goes, oh, that writes itself, So we used a little bit of powder, so I didn't know who it was that was tapping me on the shoulder, like the claw. He leapfrogged, and the rest is history. And
Did you have Sacco on?
What's that?
Did you have Mr. Sacco on?
Oh yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so not only did he flip me, but prior to flipping me, he literally, knocked 10 people. The guys were taking bumps over the top rope. And of course it's ludicrous. But
yeah, of course it is.
If this was the old days, and say it was, studio wrestling or, no matter where it was, you can make people laugh and you can be the butt of the joke, and then the next week you come out as a vicious heel and, and get some heat and you put that, kind of aura of fear back into people because they've had a chance to laugh at you. And I mean, Corny was one of the best guys in the business of making people laugh and cut them off and exposing himself to ridiculous situations and coming back with a real killer promo. So yeah, I like I said, it's supposed to be fun. There's some amazing wrestling, on those over-the-top shows, and I didn't see any harm in it, and I thought people enjoyed it. And,
Exactly.
I'll just have to,
But I do get it. I do get
that one.
I do get, like, I don't begrudge Corny his views on that. Like, he has the right to get upset about that if he wants.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. I think he thinks we're all trolling him, though. Maybe we are. Hey, man.
I don't know. When I see Joey's gimmick, and it's funny. The crazy thing is, it's not offensive, and kids love it.
They love it.
And the next night in Belfast, Session Moth Martina, which is a great character, got involved in doing her own take on Joey's character, and it's fun. No one wants to watch a show where it's all classic wrestling for 3 hours. So I think you mix it up. There's a place in that tent for Joey, and even for a returning guy like me to take the dreaded the flip. So I guess that's as good a way to end as we can, right?
Mick, yeah, but I just thought of one more thing. I'm sorry. I'm really
That's
sorry.
all right.
And it's something that I read you mentioned in the last few days, and that's and I agree with you 100% that Leon White, aka Vader, and Joni should both be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. I mean, people go around and around because obviously there's dozens of people who are deserving, and it's a pretty subjective hall.
Yeah.
It's not like you get in on a baseball Hall of Fame based on statistics and things that are very objective. But I think when you look at the contributions that Leon made, and with WWE being, probably the least impressive run he had, but I think that's only because people were in his ear, and it was pre-Attitude Era.
Yes.
Where he wasn't really allowed to be the Vader that had struck fear into the hearts of,
Right.
enhancement workers around the country.
And
And I thought he was a dominant performer who drew, more money than just about anybody in his era.
around the world.
Maybe the finest.
Around the
Yeah,
world.
yeah,
before
around
he
the
even
world.
before he even came to WWE.
He drew it around the world.
He was a
one of the
world
biggest stars.
Mick, he was a world champion in Mexico. He was a world champion for Otto Vance. He was a world champion in Japan, all at the same time.
Yep. And then he was dominant in WCW. And the thing is, it would mean so much to him. He just had an operation on his heart. I mentioned it to Vince last year that I wish he'd consider it sooner rather than later, because I know how much it would mean to him. And I had a talk with Leon, and I'm like, Leon, you can't let that, the Hall, that invite, decide for you whether or not your career was a success. It was. And he's like, I know, I can't help it. He said it felt like it would legitimize his career. And I'm like, you
that's
can't
sad.
tell someone.
Yeah, it's sad to hear that he thinks
that. Yeah, and I think it's just for Joni, I think it would be. I love the fact that she's mentioned on WWE. That they show her in video, and I hope it's a sign that one day she'll be in. And again, it's if it's inevitable that one day she'll be in, even though I don't think it is. I'd just like to see it sooner rather than later as well.
Yes. Yeah.
So those would be my top two people who are not yet in, although there are, like I said, dozens of deserving people. With
so
you being
many
one of them down the line.
Well, and I appreciate you saying that, Mick. But there's so many people that I think need to go in there for me, and like barring an unforeseen accident, I'm not going anywhere now. You know what I mean? Yeah. So.
Yeah, and look, if the Horsemen are in as a unit, then I think you make a great argument that DX should be in as a unit. And I don't think anyone's going to complain if Shawn Michaels enters the Hall of Fame twice.
Nope. Nope.
I think that'd be just fine. So listen, I have to run,
Yes.
but I don't need many of these. So
Thank you.
I hope
I'm
it
grateful,
was fun
Mick.
for you.
It was amazing. And I'm so grateful. And all your
The
great
time
work.
just flies by.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that I didn't get a chance to talk with all the people who hung around the studio, but I hope they'll come out and see the show at the Ice House and enjoy the show.
Thank you, Mick. Have an awesome day, man.
All right, you too. Okay, always a pleasure.
Like I said, I'm so grateful that Mick took the time, to come on. And I hit him up fairly last minute too. I had a couple other guests
Irons in the
lined
fire.
up. Yeah, but I upgraded to Mick when I had a chance. Anyways, what were you going to say about some of the stuff that Mick wanted to talk about? that you
Well,
didn't
Mick
get
will
to?
also be at WrestleCon. He
Yes.
wanted to mention that, as well as his 20 Years of Hell tour.
Yep.
You'll be at WrestleCon for that wrestling club all 3 days,
Yep.
along with Mean Gene, Kevin Nash, and Al Snow,
Yeah.
as well as this Friday in Cleveland, Tennessee for One Fall. One Fall Power Factory presents One Fall Wrestling. You'll be wrestling on Friday, and then Saturday, that same company, Power Factory 1, the number 1, FW, has a seminar that you'll be performing at, helping students. And then later that night in Canton, Georgia.
I'm in Tennessee one night too.
Tennessee Friday.
Yes.
Saturday is the seminar.
Okay.
And then Saturday night, you're in Georgia wrestling
Okay.
at Canton, Georgia for Georgia Premier Wrestling.
All right. I'll take your word for it.
I hope so. Stay tuned to Sean's Twitter to find out all that information.
Is that Glacier School that you're helping?
Yes, that is. Actually.
Good friend Ray Lloyd. He's a
Yeah.
Good dude.
Yeah, we love Ray. Yeah. And anyways, I was about ready to go off on a tangent about Ray.
Sorry, that's my fault.
Save that for next week.
Anyway, all right. So Marty, again, real quick, all your social media stuff and the name of your supplement company.
Go find me at Martin Casaus on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can find my supplements at martincasaus.com. Basically, look up Marty the Moth. You'll find me on everything.
Thank you, Marty. So grateful that you came down, and I'm grateful that you brought some product for me to try.
Gotta let me know, brother. How it
Thanks,
works.
man.
Thanks, bro.
All right, everyone. Tune in next week, right here on X-Pac 12360 on Westwood One and the Jericho Network. Oh, yeah.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, Sean Waltman, producers Mark Donica, Jimbo Frank, and TK Trinidad, and the entire X-Pac 12360 staff, we would like to thank you for tuning in. Like us on Facebook, rate and comment on iTunes and YouTube. Follow X-Pac on Twitter at TheRealXpac and email us at xpac12360show@gmail.com.